interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Real Guys Live, the series where we discuss all the movie and TV news that you need to know. Joining me today are the esteemed members of the Real Movie Guy universe. We have John. Say hi to the camera, John.
Hello.
And we have Adam.
Hello.
And last but not least, the lovely Julie.
Hi.
All right, guys, we have a lot to talk about today. There's a lot of news, to be honest. We were kind of like talking about this beforehand, all the stuff we have to talk about, and I'm really excited. But before we do that, I'd love to ask everybody, what are we watching? Adam, I'm picking on you first. What are you watching? What do you tell the people out there? What are you looking at?
So I've been watching some anime recently.
All right, that's good.
Specifically, My Dress Up Darling. I've been caught up on it. It is fantastic if you're interested.
All right, what is that about? I actually don't know, so give me a little blurb.
So it's like the new for the winter season of 2022 here that we're in. It's like the best one out of all of them. So I was like, yeah, you know what? Let me check it out. And it is fantastic. It's about a guy that he grew up making like designing dolls, basically.
Okay.
And he works on the clothes for them, and then he meets a girl in his school that loves to cosplay, but she's not good at cosplay, so he ends up making the outfits for her. And then, it's like a little slice of life anime, and it's really good.
That's interesting. I don't think I've even heard of that one. There's so much anime out there; it becomes like a daunting task. There's like I want to get caught up on like the main ones for me are like the Dr. Stones, the Attack on Titan. Still watching every week. There's a lot though I want to get to. Fire Force is another one actually that's been on my radar. I kind of started it and I wasn't that interested in it, but I don't know. I like the more shonen stuff. I know you like the slice of life. We've talked about this before. Hey, to each their own though. That might be something I'll check out though. So Adam gives that a recommend. That sounds pretty cool. All right, John, what have you been watching, man?
I've been watching a lot of Peppa Pig lately.
Peppa Pig. Oh man.
Peppa Pig.
Man. Yeah,
Peppa Pig and Bluey. That's all I watch.
I was just gonna say I was surprised you didn't say Bluey.
Bluey's so short, and Peppa Pig's a little bit longer than Bluey. So
what do you think of Peppa Pig? Let's get your hot take on Peppa Pig. Is that like is that like a good show for kids? Is it overhyped, underhyped?
No, it's a good show for kids, but after a while, your kids start speaking like they're British, and then it gets all crazy.
Yeah,
I heard Peppa can be pretty salty at times as well, right? She's got a little bit of attitude, Peppa.
Yeah, she's got some sass to her.
Is it Caillou sass? That was always the one that bothered me.
It's less than
Caillou is a straight up brat.
Caillou's a bald little pain in the butt. Peppa's not as bad. I could take the pig, but Caillou's a brat.
Caillou can't handle. No. Well, that's good. At least your kids are watching. Anything else you've been watching? How about anything for you? Anything that special for Daddy there? That's not weird.
I saw the Batman, but
you saw the Batman. I did. What'd you think? Brief thoughts. We're not no spoilers. Just recommend.
I thought it was good. I thought it's definitely one of those things that has a lot in it to take in. You really have to see it like twice to really feel like get it completely.
All right, yeah, no, me and Julie checked out the Batman. But we have some stories that we'll talk about in a little bit. But I highly recommend the Batman. I don't want to get into spoilers. I know Adam hasn't seen it. Some of the viewers at home haven't seen it. I have a thing about spoilers. Which, before I get into that, I don't want to take over the conversation though. Julie, what have you been watching? I know we watch the same stuff, but is there anything you've been watching?
I'm torn. I don't know what one to pick.
You pick whatever you want. It doesn't matter.
We just started watching Our Flag Means Death. It's on HBO Max. It has Rhys Darby in it. He's in like Flight of the Conchords, a bunch of other comedy stuff. And he's a gentleman pirate. And it's just that premise alone I find hysterical. I didn't get to the point yet, but Taika Waititi, it's his show, Taika's. He plays Blackbeard. So I'm curious to see when those two finally meet, because Rhys Darby's very prim and proper, trying to, sail the high seas with a motley crew of silly pirates. So
Yeah.
it's fun. I think we're only 2 episodes in, but I'm enjoying it. You know, Reese Darby's always someone, every time I see him pop up in something, he always delivers the laughs. So I'm really happy to see him kind of be the center stage in his own show for once.
Right.
So I'm excited to keep watching it.
No, I recommend that, especially if you like the What We Do in the Shadows series. It's kind of like that for pirates. So if that entices you, that kind of humor, it's just definitely going to be a show for you. I am finding it a little slower than I would like. I don't remember What We Do in the Shadows being as slow to get started off. I feel like I was like already invested in the characters super quick. I could be wrong though. Again, I like the show though. I definitely gets a recommend from me.
It pulls at the heartstrings
yeah.
more than I thought it would.
Yeah, it
Just
definitely
I feel
has.
bad for him.
That has a little more serious stuff in it. I was surprised. I wasn't expecting to have some more serious storytelling in it. But, you know, I guess the best comedies always have that through line of where, you know, it does have a serious tone. I have an interesting one that I decided to watch this week. Julie watched with me. I decided to watch Fresh. It's on Hulu. It's a new movie, and I didn't know what it was about, right? It was one of these movies. It looked like a typical, like, rom-com. Not rom-com, like a romance kind of movie. This woman, Sebastian Stan's in it, the guy who plays the Winter Soldier. Most of us are probably familiar with. This girl, she goes on these dating apps. She's trying to find a guy, you know, the typical love story. She meets Sebastian Stan in a supermarket, and they hit it off, and she thinks he's like the perfect guy, and then he invites her to go on vacation with him. They go, so he brings her to their house, like, oh, I have to stop at my house, you know, before we go on, because we have to go the next day. He invites her over, he drugs her, and she passes out. She wakes up and she's chained to the floor, and he tells her that he's going to sell her body for meat to cannibals. Yeah, that was a movie I watched this weekend.
I'm surprised you went into that deep spoiler.
Yeah, it's a spoiler, but I think people need to know because the trailer doesn't do a great job telling you that's what it's about. It hints at it the whole time.
I was going to say, I did not expect that direction whatsoever.
See, that's what you shouldn't have done the spoiler because we knew it going into it.
I don't know. I had to. I'm sorry. That's where it goes. I won't go any more than that. But that's actually what the movie is about. And you know what? This is a good example of, I always like to say, you have a great premise like that. To me, that's a genius idea. You know, taking like the honest like issues of dating in today's world with the apps and not knowing people, getting to know someone, finding out who they really are and being like, oh crap, what have I gotten myself into? And then end up being a cannibal, which is a crazy twist. But beyond the premise, I thought the movie was only okay. You know, I guess I expected maybe something a little more with such a genius premise. I feel like they started out really good, like, this is what we want to do. And once they just had to go more into the story, I felt like it lost a lot of steam. But if that interests you, that might be a good date night movie, you know? I'm sure you'll get you'll get your pound of flesh out of it.
Sebastian Stan was amazing in it. He really was good in it.
He's really good in the beginning, and then again he fizzles out because I feel like they didn't know the direction they wanted to take the character in. Again, it's one of those movies where, again, I love the premise. It's just I wish the execution was a little better, unfortunately. But, you know, if you like it, I recommend it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I watched. We started watching The Tourist on HBO Max about an Aussie guy who loses his memory. I don't know if it's any good. Julie fell asleep halfway through the first episode, so I'll come back to it. Just, you know, put a little tidbit in that. We'll come back to that one. Other than that, though, you know, pretty good week. We did watch Turning Red, which we'll talk about a little bit later. We all have some thoughts on that movie to give you what we thought. But going into the news, we had a big week, as John brilliantly alluded to. Batman just came out. And we did see Batman dominate the box office. Now, is anyone here actually surprised by that? As I kind of wasn't. I think Batman's name alone is just worth so much money. It's pretty much like if you say like if you between Spider-Man and Batman, which it's kind of crazy. We got both of those movies this year, right? I mean, when you really think about like the pinnacle of comic book movies, Batman and Spider-Man are like the two biggest ones. I mean, I'm sure people will make arguments for the Avengers and stuff like that. But as far as like that lasting legacy, I don't think there's any two bigger movies than like the Batman or Spider-Man franchise as far as like that financial gain automatically at the box office. Now, going into that, I think the movie was really good. Again, we can't talk about spoilers. I would love to, but I don't want to do that. I've had a lot of issues with spoilers this week, which is the main thing I want to talk about. I went on YouTube, before I saw Batman. We saw it Tuesday. The movie came out the Friday beforehand, so reasonable amount of time. I don't think I was too late to the party or anything like that. I go on YouTube, and it is literally nothing but clickbait with images of things that are happening in the movie, characters that are revealed in the movie. I don't know about you guys. I'm really getting sick of it. I really am. And I feel like I understand why people do it. I try not to do it on this channel. I don't think we use clickbait as far as like, if it's in there, I'm going to let you know ahead of time that there's going to be some kind of spoilers. Maybe not in the instance of Fresh. I kind of spoiled that for Adam a little bit, but regardless, you know what I mean? I try to tell people the trailer is one thing if you see it in the trailer, but even that can be kind of spoilery. What is everyone's like thoughts on spoilers in movies? I'm really getting freaking sick of it. I want to say something else. I'm really getting freaking sick of it. John, what are your thoughts now? I don't know how you are with spoilers. You seem to not care as much as the normal person, but you know me, it triggers me like a crazy, insane person.
Well, yeah, I know it triggers you.
Well, he already said he's the one spoiling stuff in the bathroom at the movie theater. You confessed to that last week.
He did. That's true. I hate you.
I'm that guy. But since I see the movie like 10 weeks after everybody else anyway, it doesn't really matter.
So do you think? What do you think? Should there be like a time frame? Like, what do you think? Like, what is like an appropriate amount of time for the spoilers?
I think you should give the movie at least. I don't know. Like, I know this maybe seem like a lot, but like a month at least for people to get out there and see it, because not everybody's going to be like, so like Batman came out on Friday. Not everybody can go to the damn movies on a Friday.
Right.
Not everybody's going to hang up their life on a Saturday or a Sunday. Like. These people that, you understand, like, they want to get it out there so they can get views and all this other crap. But, like, that takes away from the movie, and I think, like, people are going to eventually tune out of some of these channels, and they're going to lose their views for that.
Well, I think it's interesting, and I like how you bring that up, is, like, that's their fan base, right? Like, if you're a comic book channel, and your first video that you put up with a thumbnail is the Batman fighting Superman or something. I mean, that doesn't happen, so no spoilers, but I mean, it did happen. You know what I mean? That's your thumbnail, and it's like, Superman's in this movie. Oh my God. Like, I don't want to know that. Like, give me a little more. I get you got to make a video about it, but maybe like blur, like, it's tough. It's a conversation, right? I mean, it's all about the clicks on YouTube, but even on Twitter, a lot of it's just like they want you to click on their little tweet and give them the likes and the ratios and all the things the kids say nowadays. I sound like an old man, but it's really annoying. Adam, we were just talking about it with video games. You're trying to go into the Pokemon series, the new series. You're trying to go in as blind as possible. That's going to be a really difficult task, man. Just knowing our friend group. And
oh yeah,
just between that and social media, like unintentional, it's gonna be rough. I don't know how you're gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, I've already taken steps. Actually, same thing with Doctor Strange. I went ahead and I muted all the words that relate to anything that could possibly deal with Doctor Strange, and unfortunately have to mute things that are related to Pokemon now too, on Twitter at least.
That kind of sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. YouTube's going to be a little bit more difficult though, but I mean, to answer your question, like if I ever saw a channel like that was, putting spoilers up, I would probably unsubscribe and or block that channel, because if they did it with that movie, how can I be sure that they're not going to do it again with another movie?
Right. And I don't mind, like, I saw there's this one channel me and Julie watch from time to time. They're called Ending Explained. So they pretty much go in and they explain the ending of a movie, which sometimes I like. If you watch some of those more ambiguous horror movies, you definitely want a little explanation. Even me, Mr. Movie Guy here, needs a little explanation every now and then to what's going on. But, at least with his, he'll put like a picture of like the poster and then put the words like ending explained plus review or something like that. There's no like visual image to let me know what the spoiler is. You know what I mean? And I think that's becoming like one of the bigger issues, where people either blatantly use images, which is happening a lot with Batman, which I'm surprised Warner Brothers isn't being a little more vicious with that, especially on Twitter. I'm seeing like whole scenes posted on Twitter and even TikTok. I know Julie uses TikTok and Instagram more, where they do post like whole scenes. Like there's a scene with the Riddler and Batman, who are both in the movie, not a spoiler, but this scene is actually pretty spoilery in its context. And I'm like, why are you posting that? Like, it's okay to say, like, oh, that scene that happens really cool, but this is one of those rare times when I know I sound like I'm working for the man here, but I think copyright really needs to come down harder on some of this stuff because we shouldn't. It's too soon. You know what I mean? Like, you're really ruining the movie for people, and it's tough when you're on something such as Instagram or Twitter, or you're just scrolling through a timeline. YouTube, I think you can have a little more control to some extent, but with those, if you're just like swiping and you just come across, it's just gonna happen. That's kind of it. Like, and it's over. You know what I mean? Julie, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this because me and you always go back and forth.
That's exactly what happened. I mean, I'm on TikTok too much, but it's one of those things. It's all generated based on, things you interact with. So I view TikToks related to like other superhero movies. So automatically when I open up the app, like there's Batman related TikToks that are instantly popping up, and I swipe and there's no really avoiding it, at least not that I know of, and heavy spoilers about characters or casting, and like just trying to avoid it, but like I can't. They got me hooked. But I agree with John. Like, I feel like a month is a good time frame for the spoilers. And I feel like even the studios, like, that's how long they're waiting. Like with Spider-Man, I think it was like a month and a half, and then finally they're like, all right, here's a picture of all 3 Spider-Men together. And even when with Endgame, I remember there was such a huge campaign, and I feel like that was the only time and last time it was respected, where they're like, seriously, no spoilers, be respectful. This is the end of a huge culminating, it's the culminating event for all of these movies. And again, that was probably about another month where it was just kind of silence, and people, I felt like, were respectful about it, but then after that happened, I feel like, the gloves were off and everyone's just like, all right, we can spoil anything, anytime, anywhere. And they did the same thing with Spider-Man, posting the scenes, the reveals, and it gets frustrating because, again, if you just open up an app and then it's right there in your face, what can you do? And even like Adam said, I actually unfriended someone on Facebook because when the last season of Stranger Things came out, Kevin and I watched that in a day, in 24 hours.
We did. It was a thing.
But I happened to go on Facebook, and we're like almost at the end of it, and this isn't spoilers anymore because if you didn't watch it, then oh well. She's like, oh my God, I can't believe Hopper died. This is ridiculous. I'm like, are you I dropped an F-bomb. And because she was already like dropping little things throughout the day.
No monetization for us.
I unfriended her. I'm like, this girl, oh my God. I was so mad. Because again, it was that day. Like, it had just dropped. Like, we were deep into the show. And for that big of a spoiler to be like just out there, I was so angry. I unfriended her. And that's that. But it's just like,
well, I'm glad you bring something up, and I want to talk about this. Is the studios are just as bad to blame for all this, really, with that trailer footage that we're seeing from movies. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that when I watch the trailer, I'm like, that's the end of the movie. Like, literally, there is your final scene in the final scene of the movie is in the trailer. Like, I know you don't have context for it, so the argument's like, well, you don't know how it's going to fit in there. You're still putting it in. Don't do that. Do not freaking do that. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to get into like details from movies here, but one of them was like, I think it was Venom. Sony's very famous for that, which we're going to talk about a certain trailer, which I think has the same situation in it as well. I'm sick of seeing the end of your movie in the trailer. Venom did it twice. The first Venom movie and the second Venom movie both had their end scenes in the trailer. Don't do that. Don't just pick something else. You're telling me there's no other scene you could possibly pick that could have been better than the finale of your movie? Really? Come on, studios. Come on. This is such bullshit. I'm sorry.
I don't know if other people pick up on it like as easily as we do, but like even like the past couple things, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the end of the movie right there. Like
superhero leaping into the darkness or flying away. It's like, oh, well, that can't be the end of the movie, I'm sure,
Yeah, I remember constantly, like, if I go to the movie theaters and then, how the trailers obviously play before the movies, I remember being like, oh, well, I don't have to see that movie. I just saw the entire thing right there.
Yeah, we're getting that a lot more, which I understand. I feel like your movie shouldn't be that hard to market where you need such an, expansive trailer. I'm always fond of the idea where it should be, I like the idea actually really of just having a scene filmed specifically for the trailer. That way nothing in your actual movie is spoiled. Like, maybe give us like some kind of like little interaction of some kind. It's easier with like action movies maybe and stuff like that. But, for just for the sake of it, give me the concept of what your movie is. District 9, I think, did that brilliantly for people familiar with that movie. the whole movie, you know, is about like the aliens and they're living on Earth and they're segregated from everybody else, yada yada yada. But for the trailer, they filmed a special scene. It was just an alien in an interrogation room of them trying to get information out of him. That gave me enough. And then when I went into the movie, I had no idea what it was about, and nothing was spoiled. You know, I think that's perfect. I know that adds to the budget and whatnot of the movie, but I think it's worth it as far as, you know, especially fans. It's just doing the footage is the classic way, but I don't think it's the right way necessarily in most situations anymore.
Right. It's a fine line because you want to be able to like market your movie so you know people are coming to see it. But at the same time, like when you give so much, I can't remember what one it was. It was when we were seeing the Batman and we looked at each other like, oh, well, like Adam said, we don't need, they just showed the whole movie in the trailer. So it gets frustrating because then you're like, do I want to go see it? And I've noticed even with comedies a lot, all the best jokes are in the trailer. So then, and especially when it's a trailer that's so everywhere, by the time you go see the movie, you don't even laugh at those parts anymore because you've seen it 30 times.
Right. It's frustrating.
So, yeah.
No, I agree. I agree 100%. So taking all that into consideration, now, you know, what movies seem to be taking a new step. So we're kind of jumping into the next topic here. Back into the Batman a little bit. Recently, Warner Brothers, the president of Warner Brothers came out and stated that movies are now going to be more filmmaker driven. Which I think is a fantastic thing. I feel like Marvel's led the way brilliantly with what they've done as far as creating a shared universe with films and creating, you know, this whole ecosystem that they can exist in. But they're all similar in tone, so I feel like we lose a lot of that charm that we used to get with just a filmmaker-driven movie. But now we're starting to see, again, the president of Warner Brothers said, quality is the most important factor for a studio, and the biggest thing you can do to influence quality is the filmmaker that you hire. So it sounds like, and I can speak for this for the Batman, is that it's definitely, you can see a change is coming. You can definitely see that the filmmakers are given a longer leash. They're letting them do their own thing. I think what Marvel does works for Marvel 100%. And I think they should try to shift the formula a little bit. We'll see if that happens with Doctor Strange, if we get to see maybe something a little bit different. But I think DC, instead of trying to copy the Marvel formula, I think going in this direction is the best thing possible for them. Just letting these like almost Elseworld stories kind of form and shape. I mean, you can kind of have a shared universe, kind of not, and have it still work. Again, what works for one doesn't always work for the other. Comic books, by their initial conception, are based on different stories being told. I mean, how many versions of Batman are there? How many versions of Superman? How many versions even in Marvel of Spider-Man? Like, that's why we have the whole multiverse thing. Is so easy because there's so many interpretations of that character. And to limit yourself to just this one generation of character, I think is kind of foolish. So I'm excited to see. Does anyone else have any like excitement, you know, about what's coming with DC? Anything, you know, because we have some big DC news coming right after this. But is there any kind of like, you know, what do you guys think of this whole filmmaker-driven agenda that seems to be happening right now?
I think it's a good direction for DC to move in. You know, speaking specifically with the Batman, you know, Matt Reeves, I think, really understood the character of Batman and the world that he lives in. And he did a really good job bringing that to the big screen. And especially with DC, I mean, really with any comic book, you know, company, series, whatever, each character is so individual. And I feel like the problem with not necessarily Snyder's, but like the Justice League and, you know, that whole fumbling, like you had so many different characters and it was being managed by one person. Like, I don't know, each character I feel like needs to have their perspective, their world fully kind of fleshed out. And they are different. Batman and Superman are very different. So I feel like you need to find the best creative mind to handle a Superman movie as opposed to like one creative mind handling Superman, Batman, Aquaman. Like, give each person their own respective creative mind that really can fully invest themselves and bring themselves into that world and really bring it to life. Because, you know, Marvel, at the end of the day, now at least, it's kind of like a production line. Every movie has, you know, a wisecracking lead. Like, you know, they make a lot of jokes for when the world's, you know, ending a lot of the time. You know, they find a lot of joy in that, I guess. Right. That's the opposite with DC, where it's really dark and gritty. But, just finding the right creative mind to handle your project, I think, is really important.
Right. So let me pose this question now, Adam, as someone who's not super familiar with comic book lore. Like, I know you know some stuff, obviously, but for the majority of it, like the more super deep storylines or something, you're probably not as familiar with as say I am. Does that bother you that you might not get a particular shared universe? You might just get these like outbursts of like stories, like Batman's just gonna do Batman and Superman's just gonna do Superman. Does that bother you to some extent, or do you not care? What are you more concerned with? Are you more concerned with the Marvel way, or maybe something new happening now at this point?
I don't mind because I think that each character has like their own, universe, their own, villains and their own stories to tell. And I mean, some of them are fantastic stories from, the comics that I have read. And I think that those are just interesting by themselves. I don't mind it at all.
That's good. No, I'm glad that you say that because that's kind of how I feel. I want a good story. It doesn't have to be necessarily connected with 10,000 things. Just give me a good, strong story.
Right.
I don't care if all the other heroes are in it. If there's a Justice League like calamity, I don't need that. Just give me a good story. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was gonna say, Thor Ragnarok, I think stands out so much more among the rest of the Marvel universe still, and I
Right.
think it's because that's the story. It works as such a standalone story because the only time that you get this crossover is when the Hulk shows up.
Right. It's very
Um,
limited in scope. Yeah. Very
and
limited.
not, I mean, once again, Taika, the master,
Right.
he directed it, so it's like I don't, it works so well, and that's probably why it's one of, if not my favorite Marvel movie.
No, I
And
can
it's
agree with that.
focusing on Thor's, lore. It's
Right,
heavily set, and I mean, not all in Asgard, but it's an Asgardian threat,
right.
and like you said, it's just the Hulk, where you don't have all the Avengers swooping in to
Hmm.
save the day. It's a very contained story. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. Now, John, how about you? What do you feel about this as far as, seeing maybe in DC not do the shared universe? Because we've talked about that several times too, where I know you've read several different things as well. What are your thoughts on this whole, maybe DC doing a different route?
I mean, I think that really it just comes down to if they're going to start putting out better movies too.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many good stories out there with each of these characters in different places and different things, but sometimes they won't connect on like the big screen as some other ones will. But I think like there's just so much to do with each of these things that they try to throw too many people together to make it such a big blockbuster, and sometimes people just want you to tell a really good story with one person instead of try and tell a really elaborate story with a whole bunch of main big characters in it. Like the bigger actors and actresses they want to throw in these movies so that it creates big box office bucks.
No, I agree with you. I think we're gonna see something special from DC, and if anything shows, we have seen some new stuff. The Suicide Squad was a good step in the right direction. I also, it kind of took what we already knew and rebooted it, almost changed it. Peacemaker was a really good time. Hopefully, we'll get to talk about that soon on the channel as well. The Batman's another good direction. We're seeing different again. Peacemaker and the Batman are two completely different things, and especially just looking at them, they're two completely different things, but they can coexist together and not have to be connected, and they're still just as interesting. So yeah, I'm excited. Now let's get into the big Warner Brothers news here. So we talked about DC and how hyped we are. I think we're gonna have to wait a little bit. DC really, Warner Brothers really, actually in general, kind of shook up their whole universe of releases. From what I could tell, I can't find too much information. Now, has anybody else seen reasons for any kind of delays? The big thing I've seen was that a lot of it has to do with visual effects in their studios. I know there were some issues with, especially the Flash. I forget how many scenes there were. There was a ridiculous amount of visual effects, and they can't make the time. So I commend that. It sucks, right? I mean, it sucks to have movies delayed all the time, but if it's done for the right reasons, it's kind of hard to complain. We're just going to go through the list real quick. Aquaman 2 was delayed from December of 2022 to March 17th, 2023. That's a big one. That's a long time. Black Adam has been pushed back from July 2022 to October of 2022. All right, I guess that's a little more reasonable. I'm not terrible with that. The Flash is moved from November of 2022 to June 23rd, 2023. That is a lot. That is a long time. And I think The Flash is kind of being built as being like this almost rebirth of the DC universe in some ways. So, I hope it's worth it. It better be at that point. DC League of Super Pets. I know John will be seeing that. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's playing Crypto the Super Dog. I know he's very excited over there. Come on, John. I know you are.
I'm very excited. I can't wait. Top of my list.
I guarantee it. You don't have to wait too long, though. That was pushed from May to July of 2022. So you'll be right there, day one. I'll get you your ticket for you. I want you to really be there for this.
All right, good, because I'd probably be seeing it in July anyway.
Yeah, you probably won't go to July. It won't even be in theaters. It'll be on demand at that point. Not DC related, ironically. Wonka, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory prequel, starring Timothée Chalamet, was pushed back from March 2023 to December of 2023.
I thought they killed Willy Wonka a long time ago.
Oof. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that one was pushed back. I guess I'm assuming it's also visual effects. I guess because we're getting a prequel. Those Oompa Loompas, CGI ain't cheap. You got to make sure you get it to look good. Can't have real candy. God forbid, but whatever. Shazam! Fury of the Gods was moved up. So that's the only one that changed. It was actually moved to December of 2022 instead of mid-2023, which is interesting. I like the last Shazam. I don't know how people feel about the last one. Adam, did you see the last Shazam movie?
I did. Yeah, I liked it.
Because we were talking about Chuck the other week, right? We were talking about Chuck the other week, so your boy's in there.
Yeah, Zachary Levi.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought that was a fun one. Yeah.
One of the better ones.
Yeah, it didn't take it too seriously. I think that was when we really start to see a little bit difference in DC there. That was a good time. So excited for nonetheless for Shazam. And then finally, The Meg 2, which me and John love The Meg. That was one of our favorite love him to hate him movies that we watched. That's actually going to premiere in August. I don't know if that was delayed or not. They just said August of 2023 that's coming out. Jason Statham, he had to clear his calendar. He's a very busy man making nothing,
That one's the one we're going to go see the day of, like, releases, so we don't get any spoilers.
Day of, I want VIP tickets. We better get in there because
that's right. Front row,
man.
Maybe not front row because that's the worst one.
Yeah.
But
so, this all being said, we talked about it. Is there any of these are you particularly excited for? Is anyone really excited about anything? Black Adam's interesting. It's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing Black Adam, which he's been championing that role for a very long time. Ties to the Shazam universe, which I'm surprised he's getting his own movie. It just feels strange to me, especially for what I know of Black Adam as a character. I don't know. I guess I'll see it. Dr. Fate's in it, so that's really cool. That's something I love that character, so that'll be something to see. I don't know if he warrants his own movie. I don't know if it's really because Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is playing that character. Is that why he's getting his own solo movie, or is it because Black Adam needed his own solo movie? I guess that'll be like the defining destination once we get there. Aquaman 2, I'm excited for a little bit. I actually really like the first Aquaman. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I feel like it is. I feel like some people don't like that movie. Adam's shaking his head. Adam, what do you think of Aquaman? Oh, dear God.
So long. And not a lot happened.
You're not wrong, but a lot did happen too. So... All right, whatever. We'll have a discussion at some point about it. I'm probably wrong on that. I really liked Aquaman. I don't know what it was. I love the trench. I think the trench was such an awesome scene. This could be things it could be just me personally. Like there's things I really liked about it, and I kind of forgave some of the flaws of the movie because there is some. I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a lot of issues with it. But I enjoyed Aquaman. So Jason Momoa is the man. He can do no wrong. I think he's great. I think he's charming. Great actor. He's got a good look. We'll see what he does with Aquaman 2. The Flash, I think, out of all these movies, I think we all are the most interested in. The Flash is interesting because it was actually concepted around this whole multiverse started, I believe, or right before. Flashpoint was done before the multiverse series in the Marvel universe. Flashpoint was one of my favorite comic book series I've ever read. I actually own... Julie knows, we own all the paperback. We own all of it. I love Flashpoint, everything about it. It's some of the best DC storytelling I think we've ever gotten. Will this movie do that? It depends. If they can adjust what they've done in the comics in a more cinematic level, I think there's potential. What do you think, Adam? I know you like Flashpoint as well. With some of the stuff.
Did the TV show? I never saw the show, but didn't the show do something in regards to Flashpoint as well?
Yes, there is an animated DC movie called The Flashpoint Paradox, which is pretty much the same story. They just take some liberties, changing a few things. Ultimately, though, a really good movie. I do recommend it if you get a chance to watch it. It is something to watch.
Right. But I think you were talking about the Grant Gustin show, right?
Mm-hmm. The Grant Gustin show did as well. It did.
I mean, what did that show do?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, how many seasons of that? Are we 12 seasons
in? It's still on. Like my dad still watches that like religiously. Not religiously. He just like finished watching the last season, but still.
Well, that's the Arrowverse, right? That's what it's called when because they're all connected to Arrow, even though that's canceled, which I think is funny. They're still connected. But yeah, they did do their version. I remember hearing snippets of it. I think we watched maybe the first 3 seasons, maybe. 3's being generous. I don't know. All I remember is seeing Gorilla Grodd and like, how are they going to put Gorilla Grodd on TV? And they did. So good for them. They did a CGI gorilla and made it look pretty decent.
Because I remember I saw a couple clips of them doing like some crossover of like some Supermen and whatnot.
Yeah, they did. They you know what they did? They had that was Infinite Crisis though that they did.
Oh,
but
okay.
But you know what? It's like the same thing. Really,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what Marvel's doing their own version of Infinite Crisis, which
right.
is
and plus they had
yeah.
We did watch some of they did have multi-universes because there was that one character Wells. There's like 10 of him at this point in the show from all different Earths.
Mm.
Yeah, that was always a DC thing. There was always like Earth 1, Earth 2, Earth 3. Like there's so many different things, and that's something I think I want to save that for a discussion at some point in the future where I wonder how entangled things are going to get, because I think it's going to lose a lot of people when we start seeing all of these versions of characters getting tied in. It'll probably be a discussion we'll have more once Doctor Strange comes out, because I think they're kind of going in that direction. So we'll save it for them, but I think there's a lot to talk about. But speaking of changing the universe here, one of my favorite shows has kind of popped up in the news, and I want to talk about it with you guys. The Office is making its daily, or I should say monthly rounds of saying, well, are we coming back? Oh, we're going to come back. We're going to do something again. I love The Office. I know everyone here is a fan of The Office. I think it's an amazing show. Should it come back? That's a conversation that we're going to kind of have a little bit about it, but there is an idea being floated out there, and I want to see what everyone's, individual opinion was on it. The Office creator, Greg Daniels, came out and said he's actually eyeing up the Mandalorian's way of telling stories by creating a shared extended universe. So his idea pretty much is he said, I can't tell whether fans would want it more this way, but he says, and the way I want it, I don't think it would be the same characters. I think it would just be sort of like an extension of the universe. You know what I mean? Like the way the Mandalorian is like an extension of Star Wars. So he's thinking of creating, like, I guess pretty much like, say, like an Office within the Office universe, if that makes any sense. So maybe like a different office or a different company. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Was that something you'd want to see? Do you want old characters coming back? What in particular are you looking for if The Office has to come back, if you want it to come back?
I might just jump in. I don't think I want it to come back. As much as I love the show, I'm just like, who knows? They could be some, and it's not even official yet, but like in my mind, I'm already playing out like, is it another Dunder Mifflin Office? But then Dunder Mifflin kind of went under and was bought by Saber. Like, and I just can imagine like the cringiness where you're like, oh my gosh, there's Kevin, or they're at the bar that Kevin owns, and then, oh my gosh, there's Dwight. Like, I don't know. I can't imagine them doing it very successfully without it being like just silly. I mean, The Office was silly, and it's tough, like knowing that it's part of a shared universe. Like you're gonna watch it and you're gonna see like they're gonna try and have a new Jim and Pam, but it's not Jim and Pam. And they're going to try and recreate like that magic. Like The Mandalorian, I feel like you can't compare them. Star Wars is a massive universe, literally universe. And then here it's just another Office.
Hey, the Michael Scott universe is quite big, okay? Golden Face is out there causing havoc, threat level midnight. There's some stuff going on out there, okay?
Speaking of Michael Scott, how well did the show do after he left?
Well, it depends on who you ask, but I don't think it did
Not
that
very
great.
well.
I'm not gonna say I'm championing that, but yeah, it didn't do so great once they lost the boss figure in the show.
I kind of like what they've been doing, like where I mean I've been watching it. It's definitely in the vein of The Office. I don't know if it's from the same creators. It's called Abbott Elementary. It's still in its growing pains, but I would like to see, instead of like, oh, here's another Office universe, I would like to see different workplaces in the style of The Office. So it's an elementary school with documentary crew going around, and they have the looks at the camera, and it's that same style of show, but it's a completely different setting, completely different characters. You're not expecting Dwight Schrute to come running around and yelling about beats. So I would like to see that maybe in just different workspaces, like Superstore. They did the same thing. But it was, a mega box Walmart type store. I would like to see more shows like that, as opposed to like, here's another Dunder Mifflin, here's your new Jim and Pam, but it's not Jim and Pam, and oh look, there's Angela doing accounting. I don't know. I don't think it would be very successful, but I would like to be proven wrong. So you never know.
We love to be proven wrong on this channel. Absolutely. Adam, what do you think? You want to see the beloved Office come back? Do you want more? What do you want?
I don't know. I think it's because like the original Office is just so unique in its own way. And then all of a sudden, you can't make another one because it's not going to have the same uniqueness.
It's not unique. It automatically is not unique anymore. Right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's a tough call and I don't know how I feel about there being some multiverse of The Office. Like that sounds weird to me.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I thought it was a weird concept too, honestly.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just a really odd reference to make. I'm not sure. But I mean, if it's done well, sure, I'll take more Office. Why not?
That's the hard part, though. We don't know. We won't know until it happens.
It's a big if it's done well.
Now, what do you think, John? I know you're an Office fan too. Do you want to see it come back? You love your old stuff coming back, right?
Oh yeah. I feel like though with The Office, it's not necessarily what it was the characters that made The Office the great show.
Yeah.
It's not really about the whole plot and everything. It was more about the characters and the development of these characters. So bringing back an Office type show is just like making another show inside of an office. It's not really The Office comes back. It's more of an unoriginal idea.
It's just The Office coming back.
And even think about what they did at the end of the show when they brought those two other characters in. That was like a mini Jim and a mini Dwight. It didn't work.
Yeah. What was his name?
I can't even remember.
Plop. That was it.
Well, that's they call them Plop, but I don't remember what his actual.
No, whatever. But it's interesting that we're all talking about this because I think we're all forgetting another show that came out, Parks and Rec. Now, Parks and Rec essentially is, if this is what, and then maybe this is what they meant, which I don't know why he didn't just say that. Maybe just because he wanted to catch the headline, which is what I'm thinking. Parks and Rec technically exists, for what most people say, exists in the Office universe. I think there was like evidence of like Saber products being used and stuff like that. So there was like some loose connectivity there. Now, if you do something in that vein, I'm not against it. Parks and Rec didn't start out so hot, in my opinion. I thought it was a little weak sauce until it found its own identity. But again, if you do something like that, creating these unique characters to its own show, then I'm okay with it. I don't want just characters in another Office paper company setting, and I think that's what all of us don't want. If I'm reading the room right, we don't want that setting.
Definitely.
We want something new. Like you said, Julie brought up good examples of like Superstore, which I think did an excellent job of it, even if it was a little watered down for my taste in some ways. But I think Superstore did a really good job with that, bringing the retail aspect of that stylized documentary storytelling. Space Force is another one, which is from the creators. It's not really the documentary setting, but it's trying to capture that same magic that The Office has. Again, not as successful in my opinion, but it is trying to do that. So if we get another like documentary style show, I'm not opposed to that, but you have to be different enough from The Office in order to last, I think, in this market. There's just too many options on TV for you to be another retread. Because if you're just going to show me The Office, I'm just going to go watch the original Office. I don't need to watch The Office retold. There's no point, especially because The Office is so easily accessible. Why would I bother going back?
Supposedly The Good Place is also considered to be in like that shared universe. There's some kind of like reference that's also in Parks and Rec and The Office. I can't remember what it is offhand. It might be the like in the office she worked at when she was alive. I think they used Saber products as well, or something to that effect, because it's from the same creator as The Office. But I mean, things like that, if you tell me after the fact, oh yeah, they're in the same universe, okay, fine. But you know, as long as you're not bringing back characters and making them look silly just for the sake of it, then I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we'll see what happens. I don't know. You know, the office. There's been talks of it forever, so I feel like it's one of those things. It's inevitable, as they always say. I think it'll happen eventually. What we'll get though is beyond me. But before we get into some trailer talk, I want to talk about one real quick thing. Steven Spielberg was out there running his mouth like he likes to, which, you know, it could be good or bad depending on how you take him. I love Steven Spielberg, so that's just me. But he did something really good, and I wanted just to, you know, to talk a little bit about it. He came out in defense of the Oscar categories that are being cut for live television. As we know, the Oscars will be airing live on TV, but not all of the categories will be shown. And I think that's always bothered me to a great extent. Like, if you're having this big celebration of an award show, why is everyone not being represented? You know what I mean? It takes so many different parts to make a good movie. And especially when you cut out some of the most important key elements. It looks to me that there's about 8 categories being cut. And Steven Spielberg came out. They asked him, you know, what he thought. And I think he gave a really good quote, at least in my opinion, where it's very humbling for, especially when you look at a filmmaker of his caliber, when he says, when I look back and I think without John Williams, Jaws would wear dentures. Without West Side Story, when Tony is singing Tonight with Maria, without Adam Stockhausen, who's the production designer, we would be singing onto a stepladder, and he would be on scaffolding, all this on an empty soundstage. Without film editing, all my movies would still be in the dailies. We all come together to make magic, and I am sad that they will not be on live television watching magic happen together. Everybody will have their moment in the limelight. All the winners will be able to be shown with their acceptance speeches, but it's the idea that we all can't be there. I think that means a lot. When we look at movies today, I think we take for granted how much goes into the process. I do it as well. You know, whenever I do a review or something, I feel like I catch myself always talking about the director or, you know, sometimes a screenwriter. But I mean, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to really reference the director. Like, this is his vision. This is his or her vision. This is their creation. It's really not just one person. There's so much that goes involved in this process. And what do you guys think about this? I mean, I think most of us will be in agreement to where I think we want to see all the categories should be represented correctly on television. John, what do you think? You know, do you think we should just make the extra effort to get everybody on TV, let them have a speech? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think the Oscars is too long as it is, but I feel like everybody that puts their time and effort and work into these movies should definitely get more recognition than they do. But I think it's also one of those things too, like, if you compare it to really a whole bunch of things, like the head of the company, the head of these big, huge companies, they get all the credit and then they get all the hate when it happens. So for these movies, the head person that's really like kind of running the show per se, he gets all the credit and accolades but you know that he's happy that he has the other people fall back on, but they're not taking like the direct criticism as he is.
Yeah, I feel like it's a shame we miss out on celebrating some of the people that put all this effort into this, especially like the cinematographers and, you know, the John Williams. I mean, even the scores a lot of the time, you know, we kind of just undercoat that like, oh, it's on the pre-show, you know, if we're talking in like wrestling terms for, you know, you wrestling fans out there, it's on the pre-show. Who cares about that? We should care about it. You know, it is important regardless. You know what I mean? That music, like he said, without the Jaws theme song, that movie it hits you different. All right, if you watch it in silence, it ain't gonna have the same effect. I'm gonna tell you that right away. What do you think, Adam? What would you do? Is there something you could think of to fix this situation? Should we just have a longer show? What do you think? What do you think we should do?
I don't know.
Save
maybe...
the world. Save the world, Adam. It's on you.
It's a lot of pressure. Maybe air it again, have another, or do like 2 separate shows, but instead of, you know, separating the categories by, you know, like maybe put best picture with, you know, best audio design or something like that. This way that, you know, you can kind of give a reason to watch both shows or something like that.
That's interesting. I wonder if we made new categories. I wonder if that would be something. I don't know how you would necessarily go about that. That's probably, I'm not the smartest man in the world to figure all that out, but I wonder if maybe doing something. It's a tough situation, and I wish, it's tough. I wonder, a lot of this I think falls on the studios too for not acknowledging all the help they get in a lot of these, respects as far as like digital design and things like that. I think some of these names really should be celebrated more. Just because I watch like a Guillermo del Toro movie, I'll give him all the praise in the world. Like, oh, look at his brilliant art style. Look how amazing this movie's cinematography is. Yeah, he's contributing, but there's usually people that he works with closely that he knows that are crafting these experiences. What do you think? Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I think also too, like we're saying with all these movies too, that would like the awards and everything. I think they should explain to people better too the reason why certain things are winning these awards. Not like for Best Picture, it's not just based on like one thing per se. It's based on a movie as a whole per se. So they should bring into those different aspects of like, this is why we thought this movie was so great, and these are the people that made it. Not just like this is the one person who gets all the credit for this.
I like that a lot, actually. I feel like, I don't want to say we shouldn't. I think we should celebrate and educate at the same time. I think this is a good opportunity to educate people as to why certain decisions are made. Now, I'm not saying you should go up there and say, I don't know, Avengers didn't win because it had a crappy story. I mean, it looked beautiful, but I didn't like the story. Like, you shouldn't be like berating a movie, but I think when something wins, it should be like, this is why we picked this movie in particular, or this is why we chose this in particular. Like, I think the committee who selects this, which it's interesting that we don't know who anyone is on the committee. I always find that very interesting. This big shadow organization behind the Oscars and the Academy Awards. They're probably some of the most powerful people in the world for all we know. I think we should get some kind of explanation as to why when something wins, especially the Best Picture category. And maybe that is an opportunity to give those people a shout out too, that deserve to have some kind of recognition. Julie, what do you think? Before we wrap up, then we're going to talk about some people's favorite things going on here.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with what everyone said. It's tough. Like Johnny said, the awards are long enough as it is. Splitting it up into two shows could be a good idea as well. But then, if you stick all the technical stuff into one show, you'd have to do a good job like mixing and matching that way. Not everyone's just tuning into the big event where, you have Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Actress. But at this, people put in that work, people put in that creative vision. So they do deserve to be acknowledged for that. And we've had that discussion last week, right? Like, how can one movie be nominated for Best Picture and then the director not be nominated for Best Director? They directed that something that's being called the Best Picture. So what exactly is the criteria in that? And, there's a lot of mixing and matching. This could be the Best Picture, but this movie had a better art design, or this movie had a better score. I don't know. From what it sounds like, it's being pre-recorded and still aired during the same. Is it being aired after the fact, or is it being aired within the actual show?
With I think either before or during the actual show, from what I understand.
It's tough. At least it's still being represented, and it's not like it's not like just a little blurb like on the bottom of the screen saying, this movie got that. Because they do the joke that Oscar music for a reason, when people's speeches go on a little too long. So, the fact that maybe you're cutting out that walking up to the stage, the acceptance speech, the walking back down, the transition, all that stuff takes time. I don't know. They just got to find the right balance between it. I don't know how they're going to do that. But, at the end of the day, as long as everyone's being acknowledged, and given their time to shine, that's the most important part.
I agree, and I think we need to do our part too, as part of being like on this YouTube community through the podcasting platforms and whatnot, to make sure we celebrate those artists and those people that need to be recognized. So something for us, just even myself, to keep in mind in the future, to try and make sure I make more note of those different, people making these projects that we love so much, that it's not just a singular identity, it's multiple people that are involved. But enough serious talk. our favorite thing now, trailers. There was a lot of trailers this week. I know Adam was like blowing up my phone. It was like one after another. We're like, oh my God, this trailer. Oh my God, this one. It was just like, wow. There was a lot going on this week. And, you know, there's two really big ones and then a couple other ones I want to talk about. But let's just start off strong. Julie and Adam, I think, are probably the most excited for this. Fantastic Beasts got a reveal trailer. All right, Adam, I'm going to let you kick this off. Tell me what's going on here. What are we looking at? What do you think?
Okay, first off, you can't have... It just feels weird now with Mads Mikkelsen. Like, don't get me wrong, I love him too. But without Johnny Depp in there as Grindelwald. Thank you.
Grindelwald.
It feels weird. Now it feels like a completely different, like, whole situation that's going on. It feels like it's not Grindelwald anymore.
Do you think it's a big deal? You think it's a bigger deal than I think? I don't think it's a big deal, to be honest.
I'd say so.
I think it's a big deal. Okay.
I do. Yeah.
Julie's shaking her head.
Yeah, I mean, they look completely different. They're gonna act completely different because they're not the same person.
Which I know there was some shade being thrown, from what I understand. I know Mads tried to speak to Johnny Depp about his character, and Johnny Depp wanted nothing to do with him. Rightfully so. Nothing against Mads Mikkelsen, but the whole studio issue, I can see leaving a sour taste. I think poo on Johnny Depp a little bit because he should still be respectful to an actor who's trying to capture aspects of his performance. But other than that, if we put the Grindelwald thing aside, the whole issue with that, Julie, what do you think? What are you excited for this? I mean, Fantastic Beasts, it's a weird movie franchise from Harry Potter. It started off as from what I understand, it was just like a book about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, and now we've turned into the great Dumbledore war of everything and I don't know. I'm not that educated in Harry Potter beyond the original books, but there's a lot going on here for the layman. Even John, I know, is like bugging out over there. He's like, oh man, more Harry Potter. He's really excited.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I want to start by saying I completely agree with Adam. While I do love Mads Mikkelsen, if he had been cast from the beginning as Grindelwald, I would have been fine with it. But now you're having a transition halfway into a film franchise. And I think Johnny Depp did a real, they don't go much into Grindelwald in the original series. But he had a distinct look that Mads Mikkelsen, they are not recreating at all. Which I don't know why they're doing that. Again, I know they're completely different actors, but why can't you give him the blonde hair and put a wig on him? I don't know. I thought Johnny Depp did a really good job with creating that character. There was intrigue behind him, a charisma. Again, nothing against Mads. And, was it petty of Johnny not to give him a little pep talk and a run through of what he was doing? Sure. But at the same time, I feel like they did him wrong. I don't know.
So between the two of you, what's going to fix this? What's going to fix this little issue here? I'm going to say this. My thought, if I were to fix it, right? If say I was put in this situation, as far as writing and creating, I think you could actually work it into the story in this situation. I think you could actually have Grindelwald change his appearance to try and outmaneuver the people that are after him. I think
but that's not what they're doing.
No, well, we don't know. Did you see the movie? No.
Based on the trailer, that is not what they're doing because he's having a straight up conversation with Dumbledore and they're talking and there's no illusions as to who is.
Yeah, you're right. They probably didn't do it, but whatever. No, I'm trying to play devil's advocate here.
You could have done that. It's a magical world with magical illusions. I don't know what's going to fix it. Adam, I don't know how you felt about the ending of the last movie. There's so many fan theories as to what is actually happening with the secret of Dumbledore. I have no clue what to expect. This last trailer, it seems to be very, I don't know, very goofy. I feel like they show a lot of Jacob in the trailer and I love Jacob as a character. But I really have no clue as to what's actually happening. There doesn't feel like there are stakes where the other trailers are like, oh, stuff's going down. This is going to be intense. And, there's elements of that in the trailer, but you mostly just get Jacob giggling and talking about his wand and a couple dramatic walking shots. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. I know at the end of the last movie, I was like, I don't know what's spoiler, what's not spoiler, because the movie's been out, what, 2 years now? Like, can I go into it?
You can
Go
talk about
for
it.
it.
Go for it.
Okay.
I think the statute of limitations have lifted on it.
Okay,
And
all right.
I personally don't
So,
care either. So
the reveal of Credence being a Dumbledore, when canonically it's Albus, his brother, at Aberforth, and Ariana, the sister. Where's this other Dumbledore coming from? And I know there's theories, and there's one theory that I'm buying into, but I still don't. Where when the sister Ariana died, and that, what do they call those things? That they in the Fantastic Beasts universe, the black
jellyfish monsters
things. So they think when that expels from her, because it makes sense, she had to hide her magic because she got tortured by Muggle boys, whatever. I'm going deep into Harry Potter lore. So that
wrong
died,
channel here.
Yeah, when she died, that got released and then created Credence, or what's his name? He has a Dumbledore name. I can't. Oh man, it's something with an A because
it is.
Yeah. So like I'm like, all right, I guess that kind of makes sense, but it really doesn't make sense. I want to know, or there's another theory that Albus's mom had a kid with somebody else and then created, I don't know. And then you have the whole babies dying at sea. People who are watching this that didn't see these movies are probably like, what the heck are they talking about? Which gives a point to the movies. I have no clue where the heck the plot is going with this. I know eventually it's going to end with Dumbledore and Grindelwald dueling.
Yeah, I mean I remember that from the. I can jump in now. See, it's good. I can finally go in.
And
I know that happens at some point, and I know that he's full. Whatever his name is, Grindelwald is in the Harry Potter movie. Voldemort. Yeah, there's a Voldemort guy. There's a Snake guy. I'm not a huge. I know Julie knows I'm not. I again, beyond the original books, that's kind of where my thing goes.
I'm just curious where Adam stands.
Yeah, Adam, what do you think? I know Julie's going deep lore here, so I'm getting a little nervous. What do you think? What's going on?
It gave off a very chaotic vibe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. And the problem that I had with the last movie as well was, give me more Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
like that's what the first movie, that I loved the first movie because of that.
I know.
And then the second one was like severely lacking, and I'm afraid that the third one is going to be even less so. Than
I don't know why we're still calling it that, to be honest.
Right. The little end like title card of it. Fantastic Beasts is so small.
I know. And actually,
you might as well just remove it at that point, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
Aside from that one scene in this new trailer, or I think it might have been even the earlier trailer with his brother and him, and there's that spider. I don't even know. Maybe it's I
think that might have been in the first trailer.
Yeah, where they're like doing the sideways walk or whatever. I'm like, that's the only beast really, aside from our typical, ones that we've been going through the whole series with.
Right.
Yeah, this might be the furthest departure from the beast, because even the last one, it just had those weird cats at the end, and then that big I don't even remember, from the circus.
Yeah, there's not many beasts in Fantastic Beasts, which I know
there's only two that stood out.
I know it's an ongoing joke now. John, you've been really quiet, so I got to pick on you a little bit now. What do you think? Now, what do you think about You're not the hugest Harry Potter fan, which I know, because me and you are kind of like, I think we enjoy him, right? I mean, I think that's where we're kind of at. I'm not like, oh my God, live and ride and die Harry Potter like some of the people in this chat here. But I enjoy it. It's fine. I have a good time. What are your thoughts? Do you have any expectations for this? Are you like, I mean, Julie said a lot of words there that I didn't understand. I'm sure we're probably pretty close on that. Where are you feeling with Harry Potter? Or I shouldn't even say Harry Potter. It's the wizarding world of Harry Potter is, I think, the correct political term, if you want to be, about what this universe is. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, Julie said a lot of things that I have no clue what's going on, and it makes me even more think that this movie would just put me to sleep. Sounds like a great bedtime story to go to bed to and say, hey, I'm glad I saw that. I really didn't see it.
It's fun because just again, not me being this big lore guy and whatever, I enjoyed the first Fantastic Beasts because I like the idea of the Fantastic Beasts story. That's really cool. That's unique. That's something we didn't get in the original Harry Potter movies. We got just the whole school setting, and to some extent we kind of got the war setting that they're kind of going back to. We got some big battles and stuff. I feel like I wasn't really looking for that with this series, and I think that's what this series is gonna deliver. I know, like Julie, the more hardcore fans, that they want stuff like this, and that's fine. I don't think it's what I was particularly looking for to come out of more the Wizarding World adventures. It's kind of like Star Wars to some extent, which we're going to talk about actually coincidentally back to back here. But it's like I'm fine with the main story being touched on, but I feel like these worlds are so big and illustrious. Like, why aren't we exploring some of those other aspects instead of constantly going back to the well for the thing that particularly doesn't really need that much more explaining? I don't really need the story that they're telling here.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, when I first saw this, I didn't expect there to be any real connection to the original franchise, or the characters that we knew. And then, when Grindelwald made an appearance and then there was talks of Dumbledore, I was like, oh, okay, like it's becoming a larger, storyline there. But I did enjoy the Fantastic Beasts. Eddie Redmayne plays an amazing Newt Scamander because, again, that's someone he was just an author of a textbook that Harry had to buy,
Which I like. I like that you bring him up because he's an excellent, unique character that was brought
right,
into this
exactly.
world, and now
that's
he's kind of being fizzled out. I want to say. I mean, even more and more, I feel like why is he in this movie? There really is no reason.
Because for the most part, the first movie, if you think about it, it is like a Mandalorian-esque spinoff to the Star Wars universe. It's the Newt Scamander's adventures in the Wizarding World, but now it's becoming too closely entrenched with that familiar storyline that we like. And it is such a massive world. There's, I forget, almost probably 10 different wizarding schools in, the lore of that. It would be cool to explore different areas, or even like the founding of, the American school. There's like deep lore within every one of that. So it'd be nice to take a break from that storyline. And they're trying to make connections to things that break lore. McGonagall, I think, made an appearance in the second movie, and canonically she would only be like in her early childhood, or maybe not even born yet or something. So that's creating like a whole
not
other...
even that. The first movie did such a good job at potentially starting something new and creating this new universe, because we got to see the American side of the Wizarding World, and that was kind of cool, and that was something that intrigued me. And it just wasn't the same story that we've gotten used to. I kind of wish we just, I think we need to go back to keeping it simple and not trying to tie things together and create this story that doesn't need to be told, in my opinion. But I think we're excited, obviously, some more than others. John's really excited, so I know.
I mean, I'm still going to go see it probably the first weekend, but...
Yeah, I mean, we're all going to go see it. Well, let's not lie to ourselves. I mean, it's not a Jurassic World Dominion situation here. I still think there's some legs for this series to keep going, and John moved his hands there. I'm a little nervous about that. But, we'll see what happens, right? I think this is a wait and see. Expect a full review. I think that'll be a big discussion for all of us when that comes out. I'm definitely looking for something big for that one when that movie releases. Going on to things that just won't die, Star Wars is back, ladies and gentlemen. Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor. I think we can all say the best thing from the prequel series was Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi. I don't know about Adam. I'm
sorry. What about Jar Jar?
Oh boy. Canceled. You're just canceled right now. Get off. Kicked out of the chat. No, Jar Jar is pretty, Jar Jar, there's a lot of conversation for Jar Jar being the one that this whole war situation.
He's like the Sith Lord.
If it wasn't for his vote, the Senate wouldn't have had the Chancellor in there. We wouldn't have had all these problems. So
maybe there's a deeper reason why he was exiled from his community.
Jar Jar has it coming. Let's put it that way. He's got a lightsaber coming to his brain.
Do you think Jar Jar will make an appearance in the show?
Oh my God, what a callback.
He will. Oh my God, he's definitely going to. They would have to.
Darth Maul's secret apprentice. I can't. But hey, listen, we got an awesome trailer, right? There's still some issues I have. We're still in the desert again. Tatooine Desert. I did see more city, though, in this movie. So I have some theories. I want to bounce off some people here when we get to it. But Ewan McGregor, I think, is going to do a great job as Obi-Wan. He is that character for all intents and purposes. I watched someone put us online a couple pictures of Ewan McGregor over the years, and it's funny how his age kind of matches the timeline perfectly. To where if you look at him, how old he is now compared to when the series started, and to where he ends up in A New Hope, it kind of matches up, right? His age is kind of slowly aligning correctly in the timeline. So that's kind of cool to see. again, I think it also argues that, is this a story that we need to know? Not really. I mean, Obi-Wan kind of, we knew he just kind of went into hiding after everything happened and he stayed on Tatooine, and that was kind of the end of it until A New Hope. And I like that. I like maybe just not knowing, like he just kind of kept a close eye on Luke, and that was his whole mission in life, right? There really wasn't much else to it, which I'm okay with. The Clone Wars, Rebels, they've all kind of talked a little bit about it, especially Rebels. Kind of showed what Obi-Wan was up to for those who are familiar with it. We get the battle with Darth Maul once again, which is brilliant, and we're not getting that here, I don't think, but that was a cool story nonetheless. Now, my thought process here is I'm seeing a lot of things that make me think that this is tied to something else. And what I mean by that is we see the Inquisitor back. I know Adam knows that character. He looks terrible. Can we just say that right off the bat? I'm sorry. That race in other Star Wars projects has looked fantastic. They were actually in the prequel series. They were in the third movie, I want to say. They were on the planet where General Grievous inhabited briefly before Obi-Wan coincidentally went to go fight him then. That's the same race. So we've seen them in makeup before. We've seen that race recreated. Why that same love and care wasn't put into the Inquisitor here, I don't know. The Inquisitor, for all those fans out there, he hunts the Jedi. He's hunting with the last remnants of the Jedi for Darth Vader, trying to, take them out and whatnot. Why? I don't know. What do you think, Adam? Do you think it was just budget reasons, or what do you think? Prosthetics?
I think, since we saw Obi-Wan age, the Inquisitor had to age too. So
he widened out there because he's like he's a slender guy. He got like a big egghead going on or something now.
Yeah.
My favorite thing I saw online was it's just a dude. It's just a bald dude in makeup. That's all he looks like now.
Yeah.
He
it's
doesn't
true.
look very.
I don't know.
He doesn't look alien.
It didn't stick with me.
No, it's a shame. I think that's a missed opportunity. I mean, maybe the performance will be so good I won't notice, but I'm probably going to notice. So
he almost kind of looks like the Darth Vader reveal from, Return of the Jedi at the end.
Does.
The egghead, he's almost identical.
I mean, it could be. It wouldn't surprise me. So,
I know it's not intentional, but
no,
I'm just saying. That's the first thing I thought when I saw him.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like now, I don't know if anyone's playing the Star Wars, the Jedi Fallen Order games, for those familiar with those. I feel like there's going to be some tie-in there, which I know that was always something they've talked about in the past, about bringing that character, Cal, into this universe. This might be a way, because I see a lot of similarities for some of the characters, especially I think it was the Sisterhood of the Inquisitors. There is a female Inquisitor that's kind of put in this situation. So I wonder if there's going to be ties to that, or if this is their way. Adam's looking really intrigued there. I don't know if he thought about that. But I feel like...
No, I didn't, but now that makes sense.
Because because from what I get is, I don't know if Obi-Wan's going to go off planet too much. I feel like his destination is to stay on Tatooine and to care for Luke. So I don't know how I feel about him leaving Tatooine, which I guess he does at one point. Potentially, I don't know. It's hard to tell from the trailer, but the Inquisitors obviously aren't on Tatooine from the trailer clips that we saw. So I wonder if we're getting another story tied into the Obi-Wan story. From what I gather, Hayden Christensen is back as Darth Vader, which that's gonna be awesome. For us longtime fans, whether it matters it's him under the mask or not, I don't know per se, but I think it's interesting nonetheless to see those interactions. Maybe one more time to see master and student kind of have that connection. I think that's what everybody wants, and that they're going to deliver that. There's no doubt about it. That's going to be given. How it can't happen on world because Anakin can't know about Luke unless they're going to do some major changes to the storyline here. We'll see. I'm excited though. Does anyone else have any thoughts on Obi-Wan? How about you, John? Are you excited to see Obi-Wan come back, or what do you think?
I mean, from the trailer, it looks good, and I'm kind of excited. But the one thing about the trailer that really bothered me was the CG just looked terrible for some parts. Some things looked really bad.
Yeah, I could see that. I feel like, and I wonder if that's why the Inquisitor, they decided not to go with maybe a more CG design with him. I think it could have been achieved with makeup, though. I don't think that would have been... The other ones were, so I don't know why this one had to be the exception. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm interested to see where the story goes. I hope it's not too all over the place. This is labeled in particular, which I want to note. It's labeled as a mini series. So this is not labeled as an ongoing series. So I think the story that we're going to get here is going to be a one and done kind of thing. which that gives me hope. You know, when we're not trying to stretch things out much longer than they're supposed to. I think this story will just be just enough, maybe, to get us going. Julie, you have any closing comments on it? Anything you want to give on it?
Not much. I mean, I don't know much about like the other extensions, with the Inquisitors, other than what you've told me. So part of me is thinking, with this being a limited series, maybe those scenes are going to be to establish yet another spin-off series. I'm not sure. I'm assuming from what you said, Obi-Wan will have to go off-world at some point. Which, I mean, it would make sense. The fact, I don't know. He always references like the hermit, but who's to say he didn't, take a little trip off planet every once in a while. So I'm curious to see where it goes. I love Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan. Hayden Christensen being back is cool. Again, like you said, if he's under the helmet for most of the time, who's to say? If it was worth bringing him back, but I would love to see them have an interaction again. I think I did see I guess probably a leaked image of him without the helmet, looking all disfigured. So I don't know if we'll get that on camera.
I'm assuming.
Yeah,
to some extent.
I'm assuming if they got that image. So I'm excited. The Inquisitor did look wonky when I saw the comparison images. It's not a character that I'm married to. I don't know much about him other than images again. But I'm happy to dive back into the story.
Yeah, I'm excited. Now, Adam, I know your final thoughts. Are you excited? Also, this might bring in some of the Ezra stuff from the Rebel series, which I'm excited too. I don't know how that fits canonically into the timeline, but I think there's a lot there. I feel like this has a good potential of paying tribute to the longtime fans and maybe giving new fans something too,
Yeah, I agree. I think if anything, it's gonna open up more doors for more Star Wars stuff, if anything.
Yeah,
which I'm excited to see.
Yeah, I think so. I think this one, I'm more excited for this than I was for Book of Boba Fett, and
I'd agree.
I think I'm more. I care maybe because I have a stronger connection to this character, so I really hope it's done well and done justice. Mm-hmm. So again, we say it all the time. We'll wait and see, but I hope there's good things on the horizons. I think Star Wars needs to bounce back just a little bit after the Book of Boba Fett was kind of just a weak entry. I was really disappointed in. Other trailers that came out is we got the final trailer for Morbius, the living vampire here. Jared Leto donning the vampire Machir here. I don't know, guys. I want to say I'm kind of intrigued by it, but at the same time, I want to say I'm not at all intrigued by it. Never have I been so conflicted with a character. Now, does anyone actually care about Morbius? Like, honestly, if I didn't does anyone know he was even a Spider-Man villain? Like, if we're being realistic here, I feel like that's not common knowledge.
I mean, I knew that he was, but
you can understand someone not knowing.
Yeah, he doesn't get like the limelight like everybody else does. He's not like, as high as Green Goblin or something like that.
No, he's more of like a Blade tie-in, if anything. Yeah. I would argue. I mean, he's in his origin is in Spider-Man. It's ironically kind of similar to Spider-Man, which they're kind of changing. I think he was either like contaminated. He was bit by like a contaminated radioactive bat or some weird thing. Whatever it was. I remember my favorite was the 90s animated series Morbius, where he couldn't bite people because, it's a kid's show, so you can't have a vampire sucking people's blood. So he would take your plasma, which was your energy, through his hands. He had little suckers on his hands, and he'd go like this and like take your energy away. What a write around. Good for you guys. But hey, it worked on me for a while because I thought that was the actual character. So you know what? Stupid kid Kevin growing up back in the day.
That's pretty funny.
Didn't realize that was a thing. So shame on me. I get Venom vibes all over this, and I don't like Venom as much as I want to like Venom, and I tried to let there be carnage. I don't think this is going to be good. I think this is going to be a miss, and I think they know that to some extent. For what I gather, it got delayed, which is a big thing. It was supposed to come out in February. Now we're coming out in March. That's a decent sized delay for a movie, especially a comic book movie. You have to come out of nowhere, I feel like. Not even that, I think I heard rumblings there was a lot of reshoots as far as to include other material into the movie. We see Michael Keaton make an appearance, which again, you're adding more confusion to this whole multiverse thing, which I know me and Adam even have talked about. How is this fitting into this world? Is this Andrew Garfield's universe, Tobey Maguire. Like, whose universe is this? You know, there's images from everything, and I feel like it's so convoluted just as a fan of material. I can't imagine someone going in blind and being like, what's going on? I have no idea. You know, maybe they only know a little bit about Spider-Man, but unless you know everything, you're not going to have a good time, it seems like, to some extent.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of interesting as to which direction things are going to go. Like, will it be part of the Marvel universe, the cinematic universe? I don't know. Like, and especially because in the trailer, Morbius mentions Venom's name, so obviously he knows who or what Venom is.
Let's talk about that. Is that the end credit scene? Is that what we're all assuming?
Watch.
We're all assuming it is, right? Or
Definitely.
the one I think my favorite one was like, I think there's a scene where he like jumps into the middle of the night off the top of a roof and he like starts flying away. Like, that's totally the end scene. You know, they're gonna play like some like Evanescence rock song at the end. That would have been the 2000s Daredevil going on there.
Yeah.
You know, just the superhero jumping at the camera. I don't know. I mean, I think it's either the Venom scene or that or the end scenes of this movie, obviously. I really want to like this movie. I there is parts of me that do. Now, John, is not knowing much about Morbius, which I can't say I blame you once again. When you hear vampire, you usually think blood. Am I correct? Is that your assumption when you hear vampire sucking blood?
Yes. Or Twilight.
Yeah, or Twilight. Oof. Yeah, well, maybe this one might be closer to that than you think. Okay. It's rated PG-13. Now, again, we didn't talk about it, but the Batman is rated PG-13. I'm not going to go into spoilers, but what Matt Reeves and the team were able to do with that movie is it really pushed the boundaries of what you could get with a PG-13 rating to the point where I'm like, this could have been R. Like, it was really close. I don't think Morbius is doing that. I mean, instead of like taking people out, it looks like he's just like shoving them to the ground instead of like slashing people. And again, I'm not a person that says gore has to be in a movie for it to be good. I don't believe that in particular. But when you have a violent character like a vampire that's sucking people's blood and has claws and is supposed to be slashing people, you kind of have an expectation. And I don't think Morbius is going to deliver on that. What do you think, John? Do you think that's going to hold it back from being potentially good? Do you think that could be a factor?
Yeah, I definitely think that could be a factor. It's almost like when we watch horror movies, that if it's not believable with the blood or like guts or gore or anything like that, then you're kind of like, all right, well, is he really that bad of a character if he's kind of just, like you were just saying, pushing people on the ground? Like, come on. It's like Spider-Man trying to go through to save somebody and pushing a little kid on the ground. Like, who cares?
It's like, you know what it is? The best thing is like, and again, the Super Venom vibes, I got to keep going back to it. Carnage is a serial killer. Cletus Cassidy is a serial killer. He kills like one person in the movie. And then like, he has this big prison escape scene and kills no one. He just like shoves people aside. Like, oh, get out of my way. You're telling me a serial killer with the power of a god isn't killing anybody? Okay. Anyway.
Well, he's killing though. It's just not showing.
It needs to be shown to some
very
extent.
Poorly.
I think
it's implied.
Yeah, I don't do implied.
You have to do inferencing here.
No, and I also want to say my last thought on Morbius, and I want to move on because I don't like Jared Leto even to begin with. That we have a whole nother conversation on that. I think he looks terrible. His like CGI for his like vampire face thing he's got going on. I don't know what they're doing there, but he looks scary, and not for the good, not the good reasons I think they're going for. I don't know. Yeah. We'll see what Morbius again. I'll check it out when it comes out. I'm probably not going to lose any sleep over it if I miss it.
I think it's definitely, I think it's definitely going not necessarily the Twilight. I get like Vampire Diaries vibe because there are scenes in the trailers where he's drinking like blood packs from like hospitals, and they did that on Vampire Diaries. However, like I know there's a big difference between television and film. But the Vampire Diaries is on like CW, and because they were vampires, it showed them like biting people, sucking blood, ripping throats out, and stuff like that. So I don't know where the difference comes in between film and television there, but I know the argument for television is because they are supernatural beings, they are able to, perform those acts because it's not a person doing it to a person.
Right. Well, again, I want to like this movie. I don't know. I think it needs that edge to it in order to succeed. And I think that's something Sony could have easily done, especially with Venom and these darker characters. I mean, Moon Knight's a good example. There was a new trailer for Moon Knight. We're not going to talk about that. Might be something we bring up next week. I might even save Moon Knight actually for when it comes out. Maybe we'll kind of like address each episode as it comes out, something along those lines. But I want to see that be darker. It has to be darker in order to exist. And just coasting isn't good enough sometimes unless you're really willing to push the envelope. And I don't think Morbius is willing to do that. If anything, it just feels like a filler movie for waiting for the next big character to get his movie. And that's not a good thing, in my opinion. I had some other trailers I did want to talk about, but I think I want to put those aside because there's something really important I think we need to talk about. And it goes into another topic as well. The last little bit of news I had was Pixar is calling out Disney right now, and I kind of want to see where everyone stands on this. I don't like to get political on this channel or any kind of have that conversation. We're about movies, we're about having fun, discussing entertainment, things we enjoy. But Pixar is actually calling out Disney right now for their lack of representation in their films, to the point where they're saying that they're being told that they can't have these characters. So as you know, there is a Don't Say Gay bill that Disney was kind of coasting on, whether supporting, against. They're not taking a clear stand, and Pixar is upset about that. Pixar put out this big article. I'm not going to read their whole letter to everyone, but there's a blurb from it that I want to just take a minute to tell you guys. They said Monday's email, our unwavering commitment to the LGBTQ plus community, rang hollow, talking about Disney's statement. He said it began with the claim that Disney has a long history of supporting the LGBT community, but Disney parks did not officially host Pride until 2019 in Paris alone. Disney has a history of shutting down fan-created Pride events in the parks. We at Pixar have personally witnessed beautiful stories full of diverse characters come back from Disney corporate reviews shaved down to crumbs of what they once were. Nearly every moment of overtly gay affection is at a cut at Disney's behest, regardless of when there is a protest from both the creative teams and executive leadership at Pixar. Even if creating LGBTQIA plus content was the answer to fixing the discriminatory legislation in the world, we are being barred from creating it. Beyond the inspiring content that we aren't even allowed to create, we require action. That is disheartening to hear. Personally, I think that is a terrible thing. And I do, my heart goes out to people with that representation, especially if your creative mind is being suppressed. I have a big problem with that. I really do. We've seen characters come up as far as, queer representation. I think we've seen it in Onward was a good example where there was and I kind of get what they're saying. If you really look at the material that they put out, Onward, it was never really explicitly said. It was more just like gently implied. And, you run into that conversation as to where what should we be doing? You know what I mean? I don't think we should be suppressing the representation in any respects. I don't know. I just want to go around real quick, and then I think there's a movie we're going to talk about specifically. But right now, Adam, where are you on the fence with this? Like, I know, again, I think we all agree we don't like what we're hearing coming out of this. What are some of your thoughts? Disappointment, obviously, on Disney's behalf for this.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it before. I don't care about it. I mean, obviously, I care about that stuff, but
right, it's tough. It's tough to find. Like, I always try to, and I know it's hard. It's a hard conversation to have. I feel like,
I don't mind if it's in the movie at all.
Right.
If it's a good story, I want to watch it. Like,
yeah.
I've enjoyed. I mean, even the other show, The Owl House.
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it at all or seen anything about it. No, you can watch it on Disney Plus. It is very good, and there is a gay couple in there.
Okay.
And it's fantastic.
Right.
I know there's a lot of argument between whether or not, because Disney, I think they ended up canceling it. I don't know as to the actual reason. There's an argument that it was because of that, and then there was other reasons and whatnot. But it's a very good show, and it's like Disney hides it on Disney Plus, so it's not right out front.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a great show. It's so good.
I think
I don't know. It's disappointing.
It's disappointing.
Did you say it was the Loud House?
The Owl House.
Oh, the Owl House. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it's disappointing on a lot of levels. That and I think we've all kind of known, right? I think there is to some extent that Disney isn't the most savvy at promoting things that aren't what we consider the straight and norm, would you will, right? They're not. they don't like to celebrate too much. I think they do it for the fan service and they do it for the outreach, but beyond that, they don't do anything that's over. It's not true support. And I think that's what the argument is being here. I think freedom needs to be given. The bottom line is really what it comes down to. Now, Julie, I know you had some thoughts on this too, as far as where they should be. What should they be doing? Like, what do you think? I know, again, I can't stress to you. I'm just really disappointed that it's not nice to hear, but it's interesting to hear this confirmation of things I think we've all known have been going on.
Yeah, I mean, this legislation is really upsetting and devastating to the LGBTQ, IA plus community, especially in regards to like education, telling teachers not to being able to support them. Disney has come out in like the last 24 hours with a statement denouncing it, too little, too late kind of thing. But it's also that thing, actions speak louder than words. You can say you denounce it, but then if you're not giving those voices a voice in your movies, then what point is it? They have in recent years done a better job of representation with, different communities around the world showing diverse voices. And I think was Onward a Pixar movie or was it Disney animation?
I believe it was Pixar, right?
I believe so too.
Yeah, it was Pixar, yes.
And
John, was that Pixar?
It
was Pixar, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
so there was that character, but again, it's kind of like, and they didn't make a big deal about it. She made comments about her wife in the film, but it was a side character, that had minimal screen time. And I'm glad that the representation was there. I don't want to be picky about it, but what's the big deal of having, your central character have two dads or two moms, or be a member of that community themselves? I think even there's always parents that are complaining. I think parents complain about that part of representation of that movie. I think in Toy Story 4, Bonnie, she's the new girl. At one of her, when she goes to school, you could see there's like two moms in the background, helping their child, and people got upset about that. And again, that's a background character in the bed. They didn't even have any lines, and people are upset about it. People need to get over it. It's life, Everyone needs to be represented and expressed, and the fact that you're not sharing those stories out of fear, I'm assuming, people are going to see that movie anyways. You're talking about a small percentage.
This is one of the toughest conversations I always feel like I have with people on representation is, what do you do, right? Do you purposely shove these kind of characters into the story to make it more inclusive? Like, what is the fix? It becomes so complicated because there's gonna be two sides to this argument. Again, we're not getting political here. I'm just stating the facts of how this is if you say you have one person go, well, they're so woke. Look at all these, queer represented characters. Look at all this going on in the movie. Oh my God.
They're the problem.
Right. They're the problem. But then also by shoving it in there, that creates a problem too, because it becomes disingenuous to the point where, what is the right balance? My thought is, and again, this is hard to tell too, because I don't know, right? My thing is, you tell the story you want to tell, let no one tell you what you're supposed to do, right? If you want there to be a gay couple or transgender, whatever the case is, let that be in your movie. But it becomes where I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. So it's such a strange imbalance. We live in such a toxic, again, I know how this sounds. We live in such a toxic state of affairs when it comes to this kind of conversation that I feel like no matter what you do, you're wrong. But I think in this case, Disney is 100% wrong. If they're blocking it and they're not showing, it's your employer, you shouldn't force them to have to support one way or another a political agenda. But because of the way Disney is supposed to be representing itself as a company to families, to people, to inclusion everywhere, they should be taking a stand against this. And this is one of those rare times where, yes, they do have a responsibility to be supportive of a diverse group of people. I think 100%. I think there's a major responsibility to this company. It's not like a banking business or, some company that has nothing to do with it. They have that outreach. They have that power. This is something they're supposed to be doing. And I think it's really sad, ultimately. And I wish I had a fix for it, but I don't have a, I feel like there is no great fix for it. You just have to do the best you can with this. And I think it's just something that'll evolve over time, and hopefully our society will just move on from it. John, do you have any kind of closing thoughts on this before we talk about something else from Pixar?
I don't really have any thoughts on it. It's just one of those things that
That's fair.
whatever
That's fair.
whatever you say, you're gonna get bashed anyway, or you go one side, you go the other side. I mean, the thing with like parents getting mad about like them representing those characters in their movies and stuff, like, I mean, in a way, I guess you can see it, but like, then don't have your children watch that per se if you don't want them to see it.
Right. I think that's always. I like the option of I have a remote control. I can just turn it off.
Seriously, like you should be watching what your kids are watching anyway.
Yeah.
Not to be like, oh, they threw this into my child, and now I have to like explain this to my children. Well, that's
right.
That
Well, I mean,
comes down to it.
yeah, and even at the end of the day, it's people's comfort levels, but like, it's normal. Like, you know, if people continue to like make it this thing, like, oh, I have to have a whole big sit down conversation with my child about this. It's life. You know, boys can love boys, girls can love girls, and families are families.
It's so exhausting.
It is. It's an exhausting conversation to even have here, and that's why I was afraid to even bring it up in the first place. But I think we have a duty to kind of discuss it somewhat at this point. But it is. Yeah. It sucks.
Just relax, everybody.
Have a good time.
Let's calm down.
So
all right.
Let's have a good time because we're going to talk about something brand new that just came out from Pixar. So this is going to be our discussion of Turning Red. Pixar is back. This movie pretty much about a 13-year-old a girl named Maylene turns into a giant red panda whenever she gets too excited. I had no expectation going into this movie. From the trailer, I honestly didn't even know what it was about. I really couldn't kind of gather. I knew she turned into a panda, which that summary I just gave you is pretty much what I knew going into this. I want to go around the room, and then I'm going to give out my thoughts last because I think this is where we might be leaning. Adam, what are your thoughts on this? How did you feel about Turning Red? Were you excited about it? What did you think?
No, I thought it was fun.
Okay.
I enjoyed watching it. I don't know if this is a bad thing, but I felt like I was just watching a really long TV show for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a good vibe, actually. I'm surprised you picked. I picked up on that too. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just for some reason it just felt like a TV show. Like I was watching, the first episode. I don't know. Maybe that's because we're so stuck in this binge fest that we've all been doing of watching just shows over and over and again. I don't know. It was weird, but I enjoyed the movie.
Okay, so overall, you had some positive thoughts on it.
Yeah.
John, what'd you think? Did you watch this with the kids? You watch it by yourself? What'd you do with this one?
No, my kids don't sit down and watch movies. It takes too long. I don't got time for that.
I don't blame you.
So I literally sat down and watched it. I had to watch this movie twice to get through it, the whole thing. The first time, halfway through, I fell asleep.
All right.
I thought it was a decent movie, but yeah, it just seems like a TV show or needs more. I don't know. The way it ended too is kind of just like next episode coming or something, but.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was terrible.
Yeah, I think there's some disorganization going on there. Or I have some more thoughts on it, but okay. So you were lukewarm to it. Is that a good reaction? Would you say? Just like, it was fine.
Yeah, it was alright. It wasn't
all right. And
worst thing I've ever watched. So.
Right, and I know Julie had a fun experience with this movie. She actually watched it with her classroom. They had a special movie night, and she was able to watch this with a bunch of younger children. Which, based on some of the thematic elements, sounded really exciting. Julie, what did you think about this film?
I enjoyed it. It was fun. They definitely liked it. I'm hopeful, and I think a lot of it went over their heads because there was times where the mom's waving a box of pads, and you forgot your pads. I'm like, oh my god. And I don't know. As an adult now, you have to think like, are these jokes just hitting for us? Are these connections just hitting for us? Or are they like, what's going on here? Because at the end of the day, for me, this was a story of like, an adolescent awakening, puberty hitting, and a lot of things come with that. And I was like, oh gosh, please don't have any questions during this movie because I am not prepared to answer these.
Yeah,
as she's, drawing a sketch of her crush and sweating and her face is literally turning red. I'm like, oh goodness. But it was a fun time. I like Adam. I never thought of that. Like it did feel like a show now that you mentioned it. There was just a lot of different there's a lot of different plot points, but they were like small plot points. It was fun. I liked the energy of it. I loved the character of Mei Ling. She was such or Mei Li. she was just such a quirky character. And I liked, the emphasis of friendship. Also, like the strong family connections. So it was fun. It probably not my favorite Pixar movie. Like Kevin mentioned, there's some disorganization to it. Some of the themes I wasn't necessarily prepared for. Um, but overall, it was a good time. I had some laughs. It's a good example now of, the inclusion and the representation. We have a Chinese Canadian main character. It's pretty cool.
So let's talk about what Kevin thought about this movie. Part of this was I wasn't expecting what it was about. Again, I went into this not knowing anything, right? Pixar, for the most part, they've had a really interesting career with their movies, right? We've seen them start with like the simple concepts like Toy Story, evolve all the way up into things like Soul, where we're talking about after death and what happens and all these really big conversations. And I feel like I congratulate Pixar a lot because I never felt like they're too on the nose with a discussion. I feel like it's always still an accessible conversation, if that makes any sense, where it's not dumbed down, but it's not in your face as much. It's like, all right, well, we have this movie going on, but we're still highlighting these themes. You can make the argument that over the years they've gotten more in your face with when they're trying to like hammer something home. I think maybe like, again, the conversation for Soul maybe is a little more like, what happens when you die? This is what happens. Or Inside Out, like this is your personality developing. This is, they hammer things a little home. And for me, Turning Red felt like they took a sledgehammer and said, hey, we're talking about puberty. Let's get ready, guys. And, I wasn't really into this movie. I think if you're not prepared for it, especially if you are a parent, you might just, like John said, you could coast by, I think. You might not have too many discussions. There's a lot of things in here, we're talking about as far as like sexual awakening, which I didn't think was going to be in a Pixar movie. And to me, it wasn't subtle enough. It felt almost a little too like in your face, like, hey, this is what we're talking about. Especially like Julie said, there's a particular scene in the beginning where she's literally like sweating and like, it's like she found like the kid's porn stash. I hate to like say that, but it's like she found her stash and she's like going through it going, oh my God. She's like, it's not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. And it's one thing to be like making fun of it but literally like that's what you're implying. And it's a rough concept to translate. It's an interesting one. It's a brave one in a lot of ways. But I don't think the movie was really that successful because, I mean, that was what they wanted to go for. I think the story written by Dom Shi. She's a new director, actually. She was responsible for Bow, if anyone remembers that. That was that short film that won an award. That was like her first project. So this is her first like theatrical debut. The other was a short film. And I think she wanted to capture what she wanted to capture. I think she captured like the young girl, the teen. The setting is also interesting too for me. I don't. It's weird that she picked like this boy band era. Was it 2002?
Yeah,
I believe
2002.
it was. It's a weird setting. It's a weird time frame to pick. Almost kind of random to some extent. But she captured it right. Like young girls are like that. You know what I mean? When it comes to that, if you want to make that argument,
I was a couple years younger than Mei Ling in this time frame, and like it hit. I had my Tamagotchi, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. She captured the essence of a teenage girl, especially in that window of time, for sure.
Right, and I think that's there, and that's fine. And she had the story of like this prepubescent story she wanted to tell. My argument for why it doesn't work after that with the whole panda situation, it feels kind of forced. Especially when we get into the more like ritual towards like this end, like, oh, we're waiting for the rituals coming. Oh, we have to have this big ritual to force a change. And I feel like it just didn't come together, especially the finale felt so lackluster to me. It was just like a giant pandas attacking the city and, it didn't work for me in a lot of ways. I was actually kind of disappointed. And in my opinion, this might be one of the weaker Pixar movies, I would think. It's funny because a lot of people have been complaining, and Pixar themselves have, that their releases have been thrown to Disney Plus, kind of thrown to the sharks. And in my, view, I thought Luca was one of the best Pixar movies to come out in recent years. And then you have this, and I kind of get why it was thrown to Disney Plus. If someone told me like, hey, this is why, I kind of get it. And it feels cheaper in some ways, and I'm not trying to make like a knock at the animation because I think the fur is very well done in this movie, especially some of the visuals are very key. but the character designs felt like a step backwards in some aspects for Pixar, where we've gotten so evolved over time. Like I felt like this one felt a little more cartoony, and that might have to do with the aesthetic too, because I know Adam is definitely familiar. It's definitely very anime inspired. A lot of the movements, a lot of the eye reactions, just the pacing. If you really want to take pacing, it's very fast paced, this movie. I won't take that away from it. I never really felt slow or anything like that. The best comparison, and I turned to Julie when we were watching it, and I said, does this remind you of Teen Wolf? It's like very similar to Teen Wolf. It's like anime Teen Wolf. Without Michael J. Fox, you have a Asian Canadian girl, and you know, I understand what they're doing, but I just don't think it's that successful entirely in what it was trying to portray here. I think the theming, it's a brave theming. Don't get me wrong. I give you a lot of credit for trying to go this route, but I just felt like it was a little too on the nose for me. I think a little bit more subtlety, and for what they were trying to do would have helped in a lot of regards.
Well, I would say there were some nice lessons that, like, the kids themselves actually picked up on it. Like, oh, not being too hard on yourself, and, working through your emotions, and don't let your anger get the best of you. And you can turn to friends and family for support. So, like, that element was there. The puberty aspect of it is what, exasperates. That's, the catalyst for, the problems in this story. But,
right.
It's different. Even going back to like our Oscar conversation, it's kind of dirty that these Pixar movies are just being, thrown straight to Disney Plus when you have animators and storytellers and all these people working to bring the story to life. And by Disney doing that, it's showing, we don't really care enough about your project. You're not worthy of in theater. It's funny to see all these trailers now exclusively in theaters, where you're on Disney Plus, and even the kids like, oh, you didn't have to pay for them. Like, no, it's just on Disney Plus. You didn't have to pay an extra fee. I feel like that's showing a disrespect to the, creative team and animators at Pixar, regardless of how you feel about, overall about the movie.
Right. And, and a part of me too also feels it's a very unoriginal story. And beyond the whole puberty transformation thing, I feel like it's a story I've seen a million times. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with that when you can add enough originality to it. In a lot of ways, for how brave this movie is trying to be with its theming, it also feels very safe. Adam, was that something that you could see maybe in this movie? Like, it didn't feel like it was trying to, shake anything up too much. It was trying to just kind of coast a little bit.
Yeah, I guess it was just kind of, existing as just another entity, just another story to tell, just in a different way.
Like another coming of age story with
cute
exactly. Panda. That's really all it was.
I think the more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe the reason why it was set in 2002 was to also relate to, the adults.
Yeah.
With all the other stuff. And then they're like, I could see them with the storyboard. They're like, okay, what if we talk about the puberty, but she turns into a panda? But
a red panda.
We set it in 2002 to relate to have the adults relate to it as well.
Yeah, I think that was for the adult audience. That was more for us to try and connect to, because that was our generation. What did you think, John, of some of the on the nose references? Now that you've watched it without the kids, now would you let your kids watch that? Now that you know what it's about, would you be open to having? What if they're asking like, "Hey, Dad, what does she mean by pads?"
I would just gloss over that.
Just ignore it.
That's not my area of expertise per se.
That's not for you.
But the weird thing was too, like, as soon as like the movie started, like I was like, "Why is this movie called Red?" Like, and then all of a sudden it gets like right into it, like real quick. I was like, "All right, now it's a red panda." All right, but these are like things that like we catch up can see.
Has your red lotus bloomed?
Yeah, and like these are the things that maybe we catch that they don't catch. But then it's like one of those things that too, you're like, all right, do I play this game of like maybe them understanding some of this stuff and then I have 1,000 questions, or do I just go let them watch it, see if they catch on to it? Because like some things they'll catch like way before I will, and I'll be like, I don't even know what the heck you're talking about.
Right, it's a dangerous game. Dangerous game of cat and mouse you play with your kids when you're watching a movie like that. I think it's fine. It's just not my favorite Pixar movie. Again, it feels for as brave as it wants to be. No pun intended. It is a movie. It's not as like compelling as it thinks it wants to be. I think there's some things to admire. Like I said, I think the story's okay for the most part. It's just some of those references, man. Even they make me a little uncomfortable. Like I don't know. I don't know what it was. It's just like maybe the way it just they kind of had no shame in going out there with a lot of it. You know, I know Julie, she was afraid the whole time she was watching it, especially when you're watching it with a group of kids. Like, oh no, what if they ask me about this? I'm like, I don't know, just move on.
I think at one point they were like raising their hands. I was like, no questions, wait till the end. Watch the movie.
Yeah, it could have been more. Like this wasn't my favorite universe that they dived into. I think a lot of it has to do, like Adam said, it felt like a TV show. You know, I felt like it just didn't really, it just kind of went through the motions. I mean, part of the pacing being related to anime is, like I said, it moves super fast. So it's not that long of a movie, right? I believe it was only, if I can check here, about an hour and 40 minutes. I mean, I guess that's a decent amount of time, but it felt pretty quick, you know, for the most part. I didn't feel like it was too sluggish or anything like that. But
I will say it was kind of fun how like nobody really like questioned it. Like it was like a quick, like even her friends like, oh my gosh, you're pinned, like, oh that's so cute, and like everyone at school, oh my god, that's so cute, let's take pictures. Like it wasn't a big deal. Even like the fact that one was running around the city like, oh, all right, that's all right, we're cool.
Yeah, I mean that's an anime thing too, right? I mean, I feel like that's like a connection. Like, oh, all right, well we're over that pretty quick. Let's just get back into the main story.
I kept thinking to myself while I was watching. I was like, okay, this would be a good first episode. Okay, this would be a good spot to end the second episode, and so on, the entire time.
You know, and it could be a pilot. I mean, really, it could have been like an extended pilot that they chopped up. If you really look at it, it probably could work as that. I mean, if I could see Disney doing that, they do love to do stuff like that.
I was gonna say, who knows? Maybe they will. They've done that with Big Hero 6. I think it's getting another show now too.
Yeah, that looks actually kind of funny.
This could eventually become something that they revisit, and it could be fun. You know, seeing her continue to move on to high school and deal with her red panda.
Yeah, and if Disney can capitalize on the red panda, they're going to make lots of money if they want to. So there you go.
That's an awkward toy to buy your kid. I bought my girl a red panda.
I'm telling you, as soon as these plushies come out, oh my god, the whole look, it's so cute. I love it.
Yeah,
it's gonna sell out.
Well, that's part of it.
Julie, are you going to get a red panda?
Of course.
Oh my god, who'd have thunk that the red panda, would be the hot selling item? Oh my god, I can't. So we'll go around real quick. I just want to get everybody's final scores. Adam, where would you place this movie if you give it a letter grade?
I'm gonna give it a B.
Okay, B from Adam. Julie, where are you placing this one?
I'm like a C plus B minus.
Gotta commit to one.
B minus.
Okay, B minus from Julie. John, where are you at?
C.
C from John, and I have to go with my buddy over here. I'm gonna give it a C as well. I don't care. Like, I'm kind of over this one. Like, I'm gonna move on. I don't think I would revisit this within the Pixar classics that we know today. Is it a terrible movie? No, I don't think so. It's just a forgettable movie, in my opinion.
I also do want to add, I love the song that the boy band sings. It's so catchy.
Adam's nodding his head. I'm sure he approves.
It's a good song. What is it, 4+, or what's the name of their band? It's something 4, but there's 5 of them in the band.
The visuals were funny.
Like, that makes no sense.
The visuals are funny when they're like in the angel wings and they're like trying to touch down and stuff like that. It has some cute visuals like that. I do admit it had some cute visuals I enjoyed like that. But good stuff. So before we wrap up, one last question I want to go around the room and then we're going to end this is, out of all of Pixar's movies, what I want you to do, what do you think is the worst Pixar? And what do you think is the best Pixar? Now, we're not saying it's necessarily a bad movie, but we're going to say, it's your least favorite, which, you can explain, obviously, when you give it. I'll go first because I know everyone's like, going to hate me, which always seems to happen when we do the last question. People get a little upset with me. But I'm going to go my favorite movie. It's tough. I used to think it was WALL-E for the longest time. It was definitely one of my favorite Pixar movies, especially just because of the whole silent film aspect, everything like that. Me and John kind of went over that when we did our Disney versus Pixar event, which we got to try and revisit someday. That was a lot of fun. But my new favorite, I think it's Luca, really is my favorite Pixar movie. I really love like the Hayao Miyazaki inspired storytelling. I really love the coming of age story. I think that did it better than this movie in a lot of ways, where it was just like this nice friendship between two kids and coming out of the world. And I think it does a lot visually. It's interesting. The setting I absolutely love. The Italian setting I think is absolutely beautiful. Visually stunning. There's a lot of things to love about Luca. It feels timeless, and I think that'll age probably one of the best as far as Disney movies. It's up there with Toy Story as far as aging, in my opinion. I think it'll be something I'll constantly revisit. Least favorite is a toss-up, but I'm gonna have to go with. I think it's Cars 2. I really didn't enjoy that one with the Mater story. I'll be honest, I never saw Cars 3, so I don't know if that would be my least favorite one, but at least it seems a little better than Cars 2. Secret Agent Mater didn't really do anything for me. I wanted to be doing anything other than watching that movie at times. When you have Larry the Cable Guy as your main character, you kind of don't want to watch a movie, just see that sequel to the Tooth Fairy movie. You don't want him. But that's where I kind of stand. I'll let someone volunteer as tribute because I don't want to pick this one. Who wants to volunteer? Who's got something?
I'll volunteer as tribute. My favorite Pixar movie all time is Coco. Every time a new one comes out, I think it might surpass it, and it doesn't.
Such a good choice.
It's so beautiful. And that was one when I first saw the trailers, I was iffy. I'm like, I don't know if I'm really going to like this movie. I cry every single time. I love all the music in it. The visuals are absolutely fantastic. I have a little Miguel keychain. I love all the visuals, and I always try to find a reason to watch that with my class every year. We usually watch it around Dia de los Muertos. Beautiful story. I remember watching it with my grandma too, and she teared up at the end. So that's just like fond memories with it. I love the elements of family. Seeing a story, I used to teach a class, in a school. It was predominantly Hispanic population, and we watched it, and they just loved it. And just seeing themselves like on the screen, I think really like they enjoyed that. So that's my favorite. I'm gonna have to agree with Kevin. I can't do it. I'm gonna just say the whole Cars franchise. I've never seen Cars 2. I've seen most of Cars 1. I did see Cars 3. I could care less about talking cars. They're really aggravating. I don't care anything about that story. And that's another thing we were talking about, like how Turning Red Steenwolf. Cars 1 is Doc Hollywood.
Yeah, well, I guess they like Michael J. Fox movies apparently, so that seems to be kind of evident there.
I hate that franchise. I hate everything about it. Lightning McQueen. I don't know. I don't care about it.
Oof, that's like Benjamin's favorite, right? That's one of his favorite movies of all time there.
That's right.
Yeah, so what do you got, John? What do you got? I know you're big into this. So what's your favorite, least favorite? What do you got for me?
My favorite is Toy Story.
Okay, good choice.
It's just one of those movies that lasted a long time, and it's an amazing movie. My least favorite would probably be Monsters University.
Oh, really? You're not too into the whole Animal House theming behind that?
No, it was kind of like it felt really long too. And
I was actually debating that one.
I tried to watch it a bunch of times, and each time it's just like, no, I can't do it.
Yeah, I have to revisit that one. I'm never a guy who's really into prequel stuff in general, so maybe that is something I should try and watch again. I guess I just kind of remember going, it's fine.
It's very forgettable, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's up there. Maybe more so than Turning Red in some instances where it's just kind of like, this happened, and, I guess you're right, though, because I kind of don't even remember, even like when I'm like trying to think mentally of Pixar movies, Monsters University never even popped into my head. I won't say it's my least favorite, but I don't remember it, so take that for what it is. Adam, what do you got?
Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of both. I'm going to say Coco is my favorite.
Such a good choice. Choice.
You can't top it. It's so good. And Monsters University is my least favorite.
Wow, so a little bit of both there. Now, yeah. I mean, now what would you say beyond Coco, is there anything that was close in your opinion to that movie? Nothing really that close as far as like something you'd revisit or?
Probably Luca.
Really?
Honestly,
okay.
Yeah,
wow.
I really liked that movie.
And
too. Then when I was younger, I was in love with A Bug's Life. So
that is such a good choice.
Yeah.
I haven't had a chance to review that on the channel, and that was one of my biggest regrets when me and John did Disney versus Pixar when we had our series. I love A Bug's Life.
That's such a good movie.
Seven Samurai is one of my favorite movies of all time, the Akira Kurosawa movie. And the fact that you took that movie made in black and white with subtitles and turned it into this kids movie, and it fit perfectly. It really does.
It works so well.
It does. It works amazingly well. It's surprisingly well. It has no business being as good as it is. Highly underrated, and I always blame when Ants came out around the same time.
Yeah.
It was Bugs Life and Ants, and that was the whole turmoil between, was it Disney and what studio?
Is it DreamWorks?
Is it DreamWorks?
I think it is.
Yeah,
it might be.
Because I know some of the creators left Pixar to go to DreamWorks, and there was like information that was leaked, and there was a
Bug's
big
Life
conflict.
is so much better though.
Bug's Life is a phenomenal film. I mean, no one really talks about Woody Allen for good reasons. Maybe that's why we don't talk about Ants that much. Ouch. But that all being said, Pixar's a great studio. When there's so many good hits, you tend to forgive the ones that don't really work out. And I think that's the case where the bad thing we can only really say is we didn't like Cars, or we didn't like, Finding Nemo I really don't like, which I know is a super hot take. We're not going to talk about it.
And then you have Finding Dory, which is, I like Finding Nemo, but Finding Dory, again, like Monsters University, it's forgettable.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't even watch Finding Dory because I didn't like Finding Nemo so much. John knows how much I don't like that movie. Pixar's a good studio. They're a really phenomenal studio, and I love seeing where they go next. Closing thoughts with Turning Red, though, for me, I just felt like it was kind of coasting along. I think hopefully the next project will be something a little more interesting, a little more, I would argue, creative to some extent. I'm interested to see where they go. Pixar's a great studio, and I think they're going to keep putting out great stuff. But let us know in the comments what you guys think below. Did you enjoy Turning Red? What is your favorite Pixar movie? Least favorite Pixar movie? Do you love Finding Nemo? I hope you don't, because I don't like that movie either. But I want to hear from you guys below. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode of Real Guys Live. It's been a fantastic time. My name's Kevin. Over here I got John, Adam, Julie signing out for this episode. We'll catch you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.